Very good morning, my dear friends, and welcome to my YouTube platform Let's Learn CSI Net Mathematics साथियों। दोस्तों आज हम लोग जो लर्न करने जा रहे हैं 12th का एक काफी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक है फंक्शन। That's really very helpful for the IIT-JEE Mains and Advanced. So what is the functions? What is the basic definitions? How we can define when a relation becomes a function? So when a relation, as you know, every function is a relation, but every relation need not to be a function. So define first what is the function. So this is the domain space and this is the codomain space. So for all x belongs to x is the member of domain space. So for all the member of the domain space, there exists exactly one. There exists exactly one y, that is the member of codomain space, such that f of x equals to y. If it does, then any relation becomes a function, otherwise no. तो साथियों इसको हम लोग बहुत इजी वे में ऐसे बोल सकते हैं कि डोमेन के प्रत्येक एलिमेंट के कोरस्पॉन्ड इफ वी हैव एग्जैक्टली वन इमेज, एक्जिस्टेंस ऑफ इमेज इज गारंटी फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, एंड सेकंड द इमेज मस्ट बी एग्जैक्टली वन कोरस्पॉन्डिंग टू द गिवन प्री इमेजेस. इफ इट डज, then relation becomes a function, otherwise no. Is it okay? Now very important one for the JEE mains साथियों, vertical line test. What is this vertical line test, and what does this vertical line test say? If we draw any vertical line, that is parallel to y-axis, and this vertical lines, if it intersects the given graph at exactly one point, then the given relation becomes a function, otherwise no. So what I am saying, if any vertical line is drawn that is parallel to y-axis and this vertical line intersects the given graph at exactly one point, then the given relation becomes a function, otherwise no. Now we can put some examples to clarify, to give a very clear picture of any function. Suppose we have a relation, how we can write any function. Can I write like this one? X square plus y square equals to 1. Suppose we have this one. So this is what the collection of all the circles having center at 0, 0 and radius of 1 unit. Second, we can, this is for the JEE mains and advanced. JEE mains plus advanced. You can collect, you can say like this one, so you can draw like this one. Suppose such that can I write mod of x plus mod of y equals to 1. And what is the picture of this function? This is the family of the circle. Here this is the equation of a circle having center at origin and a radius of 1 unit, and this is what the sphere having each length of 1 unit. So when we draw a vertical line, this intersects the given graph at 2 points. Similarly, here one axis there, but 2 y corresponding to particular. So can I write here exactly one image is x, but we are getting 2 images, y1 and y2. And in second picture, still we have one x and 2 images. So there exists exactly 2 images corresponding to one pre-image. So this may not be a function because existence of the images corresponding to the pre-image, is it okay? So exist, so there is no problem, but uniqueness fail because we must have exactly one image corresponding to this pre-image. So we are getting more than one image. That's why this never form a function. So here this may not be a function, this may not be a function. The reason is what? This is one many relation, one many. So one many is a relation but not a function. Same thing is what? So this is one many. So one many is a relation but not a function. So I basically give you a clear picture when a relation should be a function or no. Okay. So now another property is 1 of any functions. So 1. Suppose f going to x to y. So how we can define 1 function? So the standard form is what? If f of x equals to f of y. This is what? If f of x equals to f of y, then x must equals to y. If it does, then this becomes a this function becomes 1, otherwise no. Second case is what? If and only properties can I write? If x is distinct from y, then f of x must be distinct to f of y. So this is the basic definition of 1 function. Now we can take an example. So if any function is 1, then okay. But if any function is not 1, then function's name is what? Many one. One many never be possible, because you have just looked at one many is a relation but not a function. Is this okay? Now very important question is what? Very important question that is asked in the multiple times of board exam. That is what? Function going from set of real to real. The important word is what? Real valued function. So if any domain and codomain both, domain space and codomain space is the member of real number, then the given function is said to be a real valued function. And the function is defined by here f of x equals to this greatest integer function. So how does the greatest integer function behave? So you must be very clear one. This gives what? This gives what? This is what? This gives always the greatest integer less or equals to the actual value. It can be fractional or integer. Like if I'm writing like this one, so 1.9, so it gives the less or equals to this value, and that must be an integer. So that is what? 1. If I'm writing like 2.1, so that becomes 2. We must have to give the less or equals to this value, and that must be integer. Can I write 2.2? So that becomes 2. Minus 2.3, that becomes minus 3, because you need less integer. Minus 2.4, so that must be this. So now I have to check whether this function is 1, 2, third bijective. And keep in mind, bijective does means 1, and 1 and 1, 2 function. So what about 1? Suppose f of 1.9 and f of 1.8. So f of 1.9, that is 1.9, that is 1, and 1.8, that is 1. So what you are getting? The element of the domain space is different, but their images is similar. So what we are getting? x1 equals to 1.9, x2 equals to 1.8, and f of x1 becomes here 1, and f of x2 becomes 1. So what we are getting? x1 is distinct from x2, 1.9 is distinct from 1.2, but f of x1 equals to f of x2. But the definition of 1 function, what does say? If the images are similar, then the element in the domain space must be similar. If the element in the domain space is different, then images must be different. But here is what? The element in the domain space are different, but their images are similar. So keep for 1 you have to keep this formula in mind. domain similar, image, the element of the image is similar, domain is similar. If the domain is different, the element in the domain space is different, then images must be different. Keep these things in mind. For the similar element, we must have the similar images. For the different elements in the domain space, we must have the different images. But here, the different element in the domain space, but we are getting the same images. So that's why this function f of x equals to greatest integer function may not be 1 1. So this may not be 1 1. So this may not be 1 1. So if any function is 1 1 is not 1 1, that means what? The function must be many 1. So keep this thing in mind, because 1 many is never be a function. So that's why the function is not 1 1 implies function must be 110%, that must be many 1. Now come to the onto function. So what does the onto function says? So clarify these things in a very easy one. What does the definition, actual definition of onto function says? For all y belongs to this codomain space, we must have at least one x belongs to x such that we can write f of x equals to y. So what does this actually definition says? Corresponding to each and every element of this codomain space, we must have at least one element, at least one pre-image sitting inside this domain space such that we can write f of x equals to y. So the two key points are very important. One, corresponding to particular y belongs to y, existence of any x is guaranteed. So existence of any x, the member of this domain space must be guaranteed. So existence must be possible. Moreover, and how many x can be possible? It can be one or more than one. At least one, that means what? At least one means it can be one or more than one. At least one. So existence of pre-images is guaranteed for each and every value of the image space. Is this okay? This is the basic definition of onto function. And if function is not onto, that means function must be into. Into that means what? We must have at least one element sitting inside this codomain space, and corresponding to this codomain space, there does not exist any x sitting inside x such that we can write f of x equals to y. Onto, for each and every element of this codomain space, we must have at least one element sitting inside this space. But for into, there exists at least one element in this element, their pre-images does not exist. Is this okay? So I think it must be 110% sure which function should be onto or into. Now come to this very famous question that asks you, is it should be onto or no? So f of x equals to x. What is the codomain space and domain space? Here codomain space is entire real number. Here friends, codomain space is entire real number. So that means what? It can have 1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. You can list lots of the member because R is uncountably many, so we can list uncountably many, 2, 3, 4, 3.2, 3.9. But as you know, this function always gives you the integer. It always gives you the integer, greatest integer less or equals to x. So corresponding to this fractional number, we never have. So there does not exist any x sitting inside this domain space such that we can write f of x equals to 1.2. So never we can write like this one. So there does not exist any x sitting inside this codomain space such that we can write f of x equals to 1.2. So image of any pre-images of this fractional number never be possible. So ये कभी हो ही नहीं सकता. इस नंबर का कभी भी हमको प्री इमेज कभी भी नहीं मिलेगा, सिर्फ हमको मिलेगा इंटीजर का. That's why this function never be onto. So never be onto. Simply you can write suppose y equals to 1.9 is the member of this codomain space real, but there exists no x belongs to x such that we can write f of x equals to 1.9. So corresponding to the fractional numbers, we never ever have any x sitting inside this domain space such that we can write like this one, f of x equals to 1.9. This is what the image. So corresponding to this 1.9 or fraction number will never exist any x sitting inside this domain space. Is this okay? So this clarify you that function never be onto. So if a function is not onto, that means what? Function must be into. There are lots of the number, that is the fraction number sitting inside this codomain space corresponding to this codomain space. We never ever have any x sitting inside a domain space. That's why this function never be onto but into. So this is onto, this is not onto but into. And you have already seen that this is not 1 but many 1. So this is the level of +2 JEE Mains and Advanced. So if any function, what is the bijective function? The function must be exactly satisfy both properties 1, 1, 1, 2 at a time. Then the function becomes bijective. Otherwise, no. So this function is neither 1, 1 nor 1, 2. That's why we can't say about bijective. So existence of bijective function never be possible. So bijection is failed. So 1, 1, 1, 2 bijection are all failed. Is it okay? So that's all thing from our this presentation area. I think you all love this video lectures, and I thank you so much guys for watching. मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियोज में कुछ न्यू और जानदार टॉपिक्स के साथ. मुझे उम्मीद है बहुत एंजॉय किया होगा आपने. थैंक यू सो मच.